presentation.
Sure.
So the first one I do have is about recognizing patterns.
Yeah.
And, wait, that's the wrong one. Hang on. Yes. Oh, yes, there we are. Okay. Okay. So what I would like to do right now as I move into this, I want to take this time because it's in me to do so. I want to describe something that was brought to my attention. It's an experiential piece of data. I don't expect everybody to believe me at all. I'm speaking to a very specific group of people right now. They will recognize, if they're hearing my voice, who I'm talking about. It also extends out to any person right now that is in a large group, whether it's an online group, whether it's a business corporation, wherever there is a large group with a strong leadership, you are a follower of that leadership. So I really want to express to the aspects that happened to myself, to Claudia, and a few others coming out of that August 2015 symposium was probably the hardest thing on many levels I've ever gone through. It tested me to my core, all right? Because not only did I have to work on my own impulses or aspects that wanted to step out, wanted to get back, wanted to out somebody, I also had to learn a finer level of energetic discernment. And because we are dealing with frequency manipulation, nefarious agendas, agencies, agents on world and off world, I ended up, and this was the beauty of just going through this, was I was given some information, and that's what I want to share right now. Okay. So for this AI predator, okay, how I see it, and I was able to see this with several others, is operating in these large online groups. They're forums. They're anybody that's gathered around a long-standing personality that is out there that hasn't done their own work. And thank you for saying that, Lily, because many of the people that are out there in the media world right now got put there. They were placed there. All right. They were placed there because they were open and they have a void, or they have not worked on their own shadow, and because they are operating out of ego and image. So what I was able to determine with some women that I was working with, and what we saw on the energetic plane, was that it takes one person that's managing a huge group of people. And what was, I don't know if you can see my face, but we were able to detect that, we know there's implants, that through this part of the neck right here, we all know that we have this place at the base of our skull, right? It's a primary entry point for AI consciousness and also physical implants. That when this aspect can come in through this place, it actually takes over that body. And unless the person actively disengages from it, recognizes it, or has a healing, it'll little by little start taking over the consciousness, and it's definitely AI. But that AI consciousness now is connected primarily to what the CIA has done in their MK Ultra mind control experiments and in their MyLabbing of people. There are actually quantum computers that psychics are sitting behind computer screens being fed imagery and frequency, and that is being connected to this artificial intelligent beam, if you would call it, but it's actually a device now, and this is what we picked up. So we're having black magicians, okay, psychics that are being used, that psychic human consciousness that is being harnessed into the computer with this AI technology. And this is the part that I really try to express it so people can see it, feel it, and understand it. When it comes through a person of that nature, you could call it a soulless being, if you will. What happens is that it comes through them, and they are perfectly tuned to use the right words, to mimic what we want to hear, okay? And it will start to look within a group individually, what does that person want to hear? Where is their weakness? Where is their lack of discernment? Where is their lack of love? What are their fears? Most of this is fear-based. And what this thing does, okay, and it's being used by agents, let's call them Agent Smiths on the planet. And what they're able to do is to move this thing, and it looks ethereal, but it actually has a tensile strength to it. It will find a person that's in that group and it will go through them. And what it starts to do is it binds them, and it binds them back to that person that is their leader or the person that's at the helm of whatever group it is. And it'll go to the next person and it binds that person to that group. And it's very, very strong. And this is what surprised me the most when I started to see it, because I tend to see things energetically. This actually has a manufactured, it's like a string. It's like, I don't even know how to describe it. And so this I see happening right now on certain groups. And what happens at that moment, that a soul, it's like harvesting. When that soul gets bound to that group energy, to that hive mind, it becomes extremely fearful of leaving it. And it can't leave it. It takes a lot of strength to leave it. And that's why I'm trying to bring this out for anybody that might be listening to this. Now, when this was seen and dealt with to some ability, the people that have managed to extract themselves from these group bindings will actually be pursued for a while. So you need to be aware that it's going to take strength of character to be able to stand on your own, and you will be called to stand on your own. And I think this is something that we're all talking about a little bit too. When we're talking about collaboration, we're talking about individuated spiritual beings who have claimed enough of their own soul sovereignty to stand alone, right? So most humans are afraid of standing alone. This is one of our primordial traumas. It's a deep, deep healing that I'm talking about here. So I really wanted to get that out of me today. So I hope it's understandable. So what I have on my slide here is that instead of looking at personalities, instead of looking at the faces of beings, of people in your life, start looking at the dynamics and the reactions and the patterns. Because as long as we're captivated by a person or a personality, then we're captivated, right? And we could spend endless time, like so many people do, taking down a person. Oh, are they this? Are they that? I mean, this is one of the craziest things I see in the alternative world, is that they spend endless hours talking about somebody else. I mean, that's an idiocy in itself. You know, how much energy do you want to spend trying to figure out somebody else? Goes nowhere. This is circular thought patterns. So when we're looking at a group dynamic, if you have the fear of stepping out of that collective, you are in a hive mind. If there's fear there, you are. If you have a leader that is charismatic or somewhat cultish, that you consciously or subconsciously view as an authority, and that goes back to what Niels was saying, you have to become the observer of yourself. Are you giving your authority to that person? How much of yourself are you giving to that person? False loyalty. These are setups. These are mind constructs. He or she has done so much for the community. You know, these are all memes, okay? They're constructs that have purposely been constructed. How about false heart connections? And this is so demonstrable. If you leave that collective, you become the enemy. Once you're out of a collective hive mind, you realize that that hive mind will see you as the enemy. Okay, does that hive mind or does that leader need to create enemies to justify its existence? That would be the war consciousness. Any being that is not fully embracing its own self is going to create an enemy. It has to find an enemy, because anything it will do to keep from realizing what it is itself. These are just things that are things that are recognizable. And does somebody out there in the media constantly bring to your attention problems but never give you a solution? Is there a subtle promotion of a savior meme? Or somebody telling you that the truth is outside yourself? Are there ET races coming to save us? That's one of the best ones out there, right? We're all waiting for disclosure because there's some ET race out there that's going to come save us. And, you know, Lily, you were saying, and I've seen it, and I do analyze, like Alfred is analyzing certain aspects. I'm analyzing certain people, personalities in the media. You'll notice that they will read our collective consciousness. They'll use words like fearless. Okay, they'll use words that we're bringing forward here as this collaboration. But if you listen carefully enough, if you use enough discernment, you'll see that they erase that by saying, yes, but I'm in the know and my inside sources are telling me this and they're telling me that. And, somebody outside of you is coming to save you. And I heard that so well in a talk the other day, saying we have to be fearless. Never did they ever say how we had to become fearless or what was fearlessness. And then went on to say that we're not capable as humans without outside help of fixing our problems on the planet. So you have to listen for those that self-cancel. When somebody says something, they will underneath it cancel it. So this is also a big refinement of our abilities to discern. To be that acute of an observer. Then we also have to look at the self. Okay, here we have a group dynamic. Okay, that's the outside world. Whether it's the alternative community, your local news network, your mom and your pop, whatever it is, that's the group dynamic. The personal reaction, am I responding in fear? And we have to be pretty brutally honest with ourselves because most of us will cover up our fears. And so but if you get closer to it, you'll start to see that, am I looking for a savior? Do I need to stay in the collective to have an identity? These are all questions one can use to speak to themselves. One of the biggest things that I have observed is when somebody is speaking, how big is that dichotomy of the image of self with the reality of your life? If you have a large spread between what you believe is true and what the reality you're living in, then you haven't come and done your homework yet. Okay, you are still living in your unconscious shadow. If you're high ideal personality, I believe in all these ideals. Politicians are great at that, right? But so are others, right? I stand for truth, blah, blah, blah. And then you look at the reality of the life and how far is that spread? Well, that's how much of a lie that person is. Or how much of a lie you are to yourself. We all lie to ourselves still. Okay, if somebody is using all of their energy right now to criticize others, that is because they have not actualized within themselves and they have not done their own work. And I see so many beautiful souls out there that are verging right now. But instead of just standing in their own truth and doing their own work, whatever that is, whatever creative aspect of themselves, they spend their energy criticizing others. It's just like moving out of that. Are you confused? Do you find that your mind keeps circling back in repetitive loops? These are all things I've observed in myself. So that's why I can talk about them, right? If you notice that your mind is in a repetitive loop, and this comes into a lot of emotional triggering that Neil's brought up. If you get emotionally triggered, that'll set up a loop in the mind, obsessive compulsive loops of the mind. All right. And I can't do for anybody else what they can't do for themselves. But I'm just bringing these things up so that we can notice it in ourselves. Mimicking. Okay. That's myself and other. Do you find yourself repeating the truth of another in lieu of your own discovery of self? And you'll find that out there all the time, which you brought up, that aspect of mimicking. We all want to belong. That's the common collective mind. We all want to belong. So we will unnaturally say what we hear because we know we'll get acceptance from the collective. It's like we all saw the same TV show. Asking self, do you easily react to external stimuli? Do you take everything personally? Well, at a certain level in our evolution, we get out of the personal. This is not because if we're reacting personally, we're in ego. And as long as ego has a hold on us, we are an operative for a lie. And that is a fundamental truth. So one has to look very carefully at themselves. How easily do I react to external stimuli? And that goes very much what Niels was saying also of developing the feeling body is something totally different from the reactionary emotional body. The feeling body can extend itself and can touch others, matter, and it can feel and it can receive information that's not a construct. And so the other one that is so prevalent here, and this is part of my own personal work, This repression of the feeling body was done on purpose. It was done purposely because our feeling body, we are embodied spirits. Impression of spirit on matter, that is the fundamental truth of who we are. So by repressing our feeling body, we have been denied access to a huge intelligence field. And unfortunately, the way they've repressed our feeling body is by pain. Right? So suffering and pain. Most beings will be repelled by that, and they knew it when they did it. So even if in this lifetime you've had a relatively pain-free existence, matter is impressed with pain on this planet. We cannot deny that. And so the only way that I have found to get through that is to go through it. In other words, I have to allow my feeling body, my personal one and the planetary one, I have to feel that pain and go through it to heal it. So that's one of my bylines, is to reveal, is to heal. And that's why I'm speaking today. Because if we don't reveal it in our truth, it will stay hidden where they want it to be hidden, and we will not deal with it. Okay. I don't know if I have any more to say after that.
I can add so much to that, Christine. But I will just, I'll add a little bit about the trauma. The trauma is huge, as you mentioned, and that's been the number one, I think, reason why people are so afraid to tune in or go in, is because of that trauma. And yes, it is so freaking painful when you allow yourself to feel this trauma. It is painful, but being through a couple of layers of it, once you release that, you will find your beautiful living soul underneath all of that. So it is so worth it.
It's birthing. It's like a birth process, because
exactly
it is over. When it's over, it's done. But we've been repeating this trauma again and again. These are these repeating time loops that we've been so stuck in, and this is why most of us, I believe, have consciously chosen to be here. Alfred, I believe you consciously chose exactly what you came into, because that aspect of our spirit knew exactly why we came here. We're just discovering it right now. And that process in itself is miraculous.
I think that was part of our human soul planning, that we placed ourselves into situations. It was almost like we played a joke on the system. You know, like Alfred, you were saying, you were born into a family with, a Jesuits family. I mean, I was born into a weird family too. It's just, I think we did it ourselves, so we can go, ta-da, here we are.
Yeah, it's quite okay. So let me just go to the next one. I don't know if I really have a whole lot more to say. Okay, well, all right, exiting the matrix. Right, and this is the big one. I mean, this is the big one. And this is what you were saying, we've all been saying, this is why the penetration of the AI fields, the false light realities. All right. When I refer to the matrix, I'm not referring to the mother's womb. I'm referring to the false light matrix, the conceptualized, constructed matrix. I don't even see it as evil. I really don't. I feel like all systems serve a purpose, but every master that is truly worth the name master will tell you this only serves so you can throw it away. So in the same way, we need to walk out of the matrix. We need to destructure it. Okay. We need to reabsorb it, reassimilate it. All the learning that we got from being here in this matrix is a process also. It's not just a rejection of it. We are actually the white blood cells here, absorbing this, because it is also knowledge. It's information and it's knowledge. Well, how this was constructed, when you start to see that, hats off to you guys, okay? So self-knowledge requires you're entering your shadow side. There's no way around it, people, okay? No way around it, all right? You will not get there if you do not go into the shadow side. It's just that simple. because the construct of the matrix will keep you in the false light reality until you do that. Our past life memories and our recognition of self-perpetuating patterns, that's the self-knowledge. How do I know myself? Because we talk about gnosis and self-knowledge. How do I know myself? I know myself through my experiential database, and I start to know myself that I have patterns. All my lifetimes have a certain pattern. They have an essence to them. My job right now is to distill that essence down to my real being. Learning to trust your own intuitions, feelings, and your own illumination of your mind. It's an inner light. It's not an outer light. It does not come from the outside. Light does not come from the outside. It comes from the inside. That's why I'm talking about the shadow. Spend time in contact with nature. You know, this for me has become an extraordinary experience. And I'm sure Lily and others would agree with that. I won't go into it really deeply right now. Self-honesty above all. Truth is being honest with yourself. You cannot find truth if you're not honest with yourself. Period. A willingness to feel pain in self and other without trying to fix it. Learning to simply be. That's a state of presence. That is the I am now presence. That when you can hold that in your own pain and you can hold that in the pain of another, that's when she, mother, divine, compassionate one, can move into the field and start that changing. So we are so entrained to fix. We tinker with each other. We tinker with things that there is such a beautiful nature out there that will heal us if we let it. So, and what is the knowledge of the matrix? This is, Neil already brought this up. Flow with your own intuition to new sources of information. Don't depend on others to tell you where to go. Follow yourself. He will lead you. Follow your passion to discover what resonates with you as an individual. Find resources that aren't ego promoting. Learn to see the difference. Key. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. All information is good. All information is good. There's nothing out there that is bad. So, are all Masons evil? No. Do the Masons have keys to understanding our reality? Yes. Matter of fact, I would say that any occulted body of magic probably has more keys than most of us know are there. So don't be afraid of it. It was occulted for a reason. We've allowed it to stay occulted. Power is something we're all afraid of. Right? There's good reason for that, but we can talk about that later. So knowledge was occulted to keep you from your own power. The AI presence, the predatory presence, the pathogenic presence, okay, that infiltrated people. I'm not saying that, power in and of itself needs to be really, really understood, probably beyond the scope of what we're talking about today. And why are we afraid of power? And what is power? But we can leave that for another discussion. Okay, the price of freedom. I'll just read this. Those who are awake in this world are free individuals. Those who are free realize with self-ownership comes great responsibility. And I break responsibility apart into two words: the ability to respond. Okay, it's not a weight. You retain your abilities and then you can respond appropriately. With responsibility, a heightened conscience naturally develops, which always leads to the realization that it is in our moral duty to awaken others. And I believe that is motivating us here today, that we've accepted responsibility. And in the other aspect of the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Freedom isn't something, it is a responsibility. With freedom comes that responsibility, and it does require our vigilance. So I like to play with words. I like to take words apart. It's something that we do a lot, Claudia and I and others. So courage, when I look at that, I go, oh, Heart, age. This is the age of the heart. We can call it the age of wisdom, but this is the age of the heart. We are moving into heart frequency. We're moving into love frequency. We are moving into something that is, and we are co-creators and creators of a coherent fields of heart energy. They're knowable. We know when we're in one of them. We know when our heart is lit up. We know when we're palpating with this organic, beautiful light of our source. And I love Rumi. Rumi is one of the mystics that I love. If light is in your heart, you will find your way home. That light in our heart is knowable, viewable, seeable, and we feel it. We know when it's there and we know when it's not. It just use that as a point of like that internalizing self. There's other aspects to that too that are fascinating. Sovereignty. I'm going to read this one too. No one can save you but yourself. There is no one to blame for your circumstances but you yourself. No one has the right to tell you what to do, act, think, and feel but you yourself. There is no one that has power over you but you yourself. No one has designed your life but you yourself. You are a sovereign being. Which identity what do you yourself identify with? That is you. What are you identifying with? The false one who feeds on external stuff to derive an identity, or the real one who already knows its divine essence? And that is a fundamental truth of any incarnated spiritual being on this planet right now. You already know. We already know. We came in knowing. What we're doing is taking down a false matrix of lies so that that inner light that we already are can shine. That's, my statement on sovereignty. That's my journey to sovereignty. That is what I have found out in the processes that I've been put through. And do I blame AI? No, not at all. I see that there is purpose here. I see that there is something that we're all learning through this contact. Maybe that AI that we see that could take us over. Yes, it could. It could. But it's the very thing that is pushing us into this next reality. Because we are intelligence, what will happen if we don't take these steps. This is not a time for complacency. Oh, and I'm done. Yeah, okay.
That was beautiful, Christine.
Thanks, Lily. It's a beautiful aspect to really speak from the deepest place that one can obtain. And that's really where I speak from. I'm not speaking out of my head, speaking out of a place that's my deep experiential me. So.
And that's, I think, what we're trying to do here is we're just sharing what we learn, found for ourselves, and we're just experiencing, everybody here, how we are experiencing how this collaborative mind can express itself, because we're doing it right now. Right now, we are working with that energy. And so for me, going through this process of changing, it is still an awakening process. We're just sort of moving into a next one. And that's what my slide's all about. So I guess, should I go right into that? Or if anybody wants to add something to Christine's slide. Okay, so I'm going to go, and I did this I like graphs, I guess, because from the very beginning I came out with some graphs. This is an awakening process that I sort of started to share with the world, and it was a very personal experience, and so I started to share this a little while ago, more than a year ago. And it's just a story or a process of my own personal awakening. And so where I see myself and having a feeling for a collective levels, this is what I feel where we are right now. Until 2012, we had this awakening of our personality, almost like a mental body. It was all about, putting together everything mentally, and we wanted to understand our reality mentally. And then after 2012, when that's when I say when Earth's timeline activated, meaning that we as human beings decided to step into our path of return, which is Sophia's path of return to source and becoming a living light creators again. And so for me, since 2012 and further until now, this is a next level of sort of awakening that we are right in the middle of right now. And that's what I'm talking about, is that what Christine was just mentioning is that feeling body. Is that now I have a lot of mental understandings about our reality. And so now I'm turning everything into what I feel, what my energy is feeling, what my living soul is feeling. And so what I feel is right now we're in that process of activating that and moving into the next level of awakening, where we awaken our human souls. And through awakening and recognizing what path we're on, there's two sort of different paths. And we talked about that AI consciousness, or the dead light consciousness that invaded our minds, has its own path here. And that's what I call the transhuman path, because what this consciousness wants to do is to control our bodies, or occupy our bodies, take it away from us, and displace our human soul out of our bodies. So, and that is still in the process. And there's people that made the choice to take that path. And what I wanted to talk about, I want to talk about that path, but only, like Christine said, to recognize the patterns. I'm not saying that we need to rush and try to change these people's minds, but we can recognize the patterns for ourselves, so we can then move into the future in our full awareness of our reality, because this transhuman timeline is still here. So there's like two timelines that are going together. And then eventually there is going to be a separation of that. But that's when we probably move in the third stage of our awakening. So because I call this also the lifting of the veil process. And so we are going to be, those of us that are on return to source path or on organic timeline, because we have this feeling body activated and we're process reality from the center of us, we will be recognizing all this inorganic and energy that is still here. Because we're going to be right now transmuting that, and like we like to say here, is metabolizing that, because we're the white cells body. This is what human souls are. And so from this awakening, and so we also will recognize in ourselves about, the path that we took. So we're going to be, until 2017 or so, for some people, we're going to be still trying to recognize within ourselves what path are we on. And then for those of us that are taking organic timeline path, we are going to be going through the self-healing. We are going to be taking self-responsibility. We are going to be integrating our darkness, we're going to release all of that, the trauma and everything. We're going to be working on that. And it's going to be the action that we take. Because until now, we've done so much of that mental work about what it is to be a human being and what it is to be born here and what's the purpose for us to be born here on this planet. And so now we recognize that all of that darkness that we took on, we have the power to release it, process it, and do with it that what we like to do, like we just talk about. And so in that becomes the freedom of expression. And so, and we operate in this living light field as we move forward through this lifting of the veil process. But as we recognize the living light within, we also will recognize everything outside of us that is not living light. Mm-hmm. And so for those of us that do the self-work, that are fearless about facing our own darkness, we will be able, I guess what I'm trying to say is bring up the positive side of this, that yes, it is hard. And yes, it is, the darkness is very painful, and that we just talk about how much trauma we have to release. But at the same time, that gives you the knowing and that spirit and the purity, the love, like you were saying, the love frequency is just expands more and more and more. And we're able to recognize that we are the creators of our reality. And for that, we can this is where the freedom is, when you fully recognize and have full awareness of that you are the creator of your life. And every experience you have in your life is because you are the one who created it. And so once we move into that, we're going to recognize that. And for that, we will understand how to exist in this next stage of awakening. And that's when we're going to start creating our reality. Mm-hmm. And so, and at the same time, as we go through this process, we're going to see a lot of fakeness come to be revealed. Everything that's this energy of this, like we talked about, this consciousness is a war consciousness. And the number one thing that it has war with is the human consciousness. So how it starts and how it invades it within each individual, it's first and foremost, once this consciousness is invaded you, the inorganic consciousness, you will have a war within yourself. Mm-hmm. Because it will belittle you as a human being. Right away. Anything and anything that belittles you as a human being, as a creator of living light reality, this is a dead light consciousness that invaded you. I'm running into so many people that trying to prove to me how little they are.
Thank you for saying
it
that.
Amazes me that people will fight me to prove to me that they're nothing. And for some reason, they feel like they need to take that anger on me because and this is the thing, because this consciousness is warring on human consciousness. So all other human beings will have a war with you, with other human beings. And this is when, for those of us that can understand what it is, we have to call this out for what it is. Because these people are entrapped. They're entrapped in this state of being that is constant war. They're trying to destroy themselves, their own humanity. This is what transhuman timeline is all about, is displace any human souls or harvesting the souls so this consciousness can thrive in that body. And like you, Christine, was talking about how it enters and how it binds your energy, your organic energy, and it feeds off of it. And so we will see a lot of that, and especially in alternative media. You know, a lot of people in alternative media are still stuck in that personality awakening process, and they haven't even got to a soul awakening process. And they have the reason we were talking about the fear can have many faces and many different masks that it wears, but we can take down those masks and reveal the fear. Everything is based on fear. Even people today in alternative media, the ones that propagated transhuman timeline, they have recognized that that's what they were doing. But because they're afraid to face their own shame, because this is one of the things that people are most afraid, is shame in admitting that they were wrong. Mm-hmm. And I watched people to be so afraid to admit that, be afraid of stepping into that shame for a minute, that they will come up with any kind of stories, excuses, and all of that stuff not to, you know, and just create more cover stories and more and more and more and more lies, because that's what its transhuman timeline is all about, is to keep the lie going that somehow we as human beings constantly need to be in war consciousness. And so all this cover-ups may sort of see, we already see that a lot of reconstruction of belief system, anything and everything that will keep you away from going within, facing your own self, facing your own darkness, whatever trinket they will need to dangle the front of you, they will, because this is a survival for this consciousness. All it knows is war, and that's why it needs to keep constantly give that, we talk about have the enemy, because it can only exist when it has the opposite, because it can only mimic. And so that's what we're going to see, a lot more of that. And so all these programs sort of that will be talking about feelings and everything, but there is going to be nothing real underneath it. It's like the way I see it energetically, like Niels was talking about, we'll have, when I feel what's coming, I feel the energy, that unmanifested energy. And then I can sort of sometimes see an example of what it might look like. And to me, it just feels like there's going to be so much of that clown happy face on. But really underneath that is death and self-destruction and desperation and all of that stuff. But this new belief systems that this energy is going to come up with, this consciousness is going to come up with this new masks, it's going to be all this happy faces painted on a very sad situation. So, and you will see people so desperately holding on to that, so desperately. And because of that, there is going to be more fighting and more of that blaming, and you're right, I'm wrong, you're wrong, I'm right, and it's just going to keep on going and going. But it will get to the point where the living energy, those of us that embody the living energy, we're going to be, our field just going to keep on strengthening and strengthening. And for that, their field, the binary field, is just going to shrink and shrink and shrink. And once it's shrinking, that's when people get even more desperate. So with that timeline, with the transhuman timeline, that's going to get even more desperate until it has no other choice but to step on the path of instant karma, which meaning that it will have to experience that what it creates. So if it creates enslavement and all of that stuff, that's what it will have to be experienced. How that gonna look like, I don't know. But I do feel that Earth's timeline, and I feel that once we establish this field, the collective human consciousness field that is living energy, we won't need to learn about universal law or natural law or things like that. It will come to us naturally. And it will flow, like we talk about collaborative mind. Things will flow, and more on the collective levels eventually. Things will flow together where things and people and probably some of you will find here that, like you, Alfred, you studied the law and things like that, and you didn't know where you can use it. There's going to be a time when you'll know exactly why you learn certain things and things like that, because then we're going to be embodying all this knowledge and knowing. We will become the creators eventually, because what I know that, and we already talk about the AI field, it can only copy, it can only reflect the living light. And so once we have that recognition that we are the creators of it, then we are in full control of our reality. There's going to be not even a question who is in control once we recognize who we are. And it's not just a mental recognition, because right now we're stepping into that level where we have to take action. We have to be who we say we are. If we are living creators, then we got to be living creators, at least in our own reality for now, because we have to express that. It's not enough anymore to have a conversation about this. This is the next level of awakening process of humanity. We can't just talk about it anymore. We have to be. We have to be that. We have to be in our own power. We have to be in our own light. We have to express that frequency. And so I think that's what we're trying to do here. And I know that today it might sound like, a lot of people are still not sort of quite understand what it is that we're trying to do here. With this symposium and everything, the effects of this AI and revealing the effects of it is also part of that reveal that it needs to be, because for it to be metabolized and changed and transformed, everything has to be revealed. And so as we move forward, we can recognize all this patterns of AI, and yet with the information that we're presenting here for everybody, what we're trying to say is that we are a lot more powerful than it. And so ultimately, that's what I wanted to say today, is that we're so much more powerful, and we can express so much human qualities that AI can never understand. Our humor, our spontaneity, that, I was told all my life, that it was a bad thing because I am unpredictable person.
Sorry.
And everybody's like struggling with that. People in my life struggle with that because they say, I can never understand you or fully know you. It's just because I don't know myself mentally. So I don't even know myself. And so that I just recently recognized that that's actually a good thing. And all my life I was told that something was wrong with me because I was so unpredictable. So finding that, the human qualities are actually our best qualities. And that's something that AI can never have. This consciousness can never have that. And so the power within that is huge. To me, it's huge. And so for me, as I always do, I share that what I am going through, that what I am understanding. It's my own process. It is very individual and it's very personal for me. But finding a people, everybody here today, and float together in this collaboration to express our human souls is such a pleasure, because to me it's all worth it to come to this place where we as humanity can stand up, have a few laughs together, and figure out how we're going to create our future together with joy and fun and all of that, all of the human qualities included. Nothing is excluded, because everything about us is beautiful. Be it the darkness, being the light, it's all part of us. And the sooner we accept that, the sooner we accept the beauty of our authentic selves, the sooner we will be the creators of our reality. That's what I wanted to say today. And thank you for having me on this particular panel.
Well, thank you, Lily. I'm always underlining things, but it's like bringing all of this information into something very simplistic. And when we talk about love, it is beautiful, and the dark also has an extraordinary beauty. Even the worst things that have ever happened, beauty's also in there too. And it's like, I when you said that, I was like, yes, somebody knows that also. And so, just a compass for me has become my own love, but it is my love of beauty. It is my love of truth, and it is my love of freedom. And see, those are principles within me that are operating principles. I know when I'm operating at that frequency, and I know when I'm not. And so it's as an internal compass. And so, we are navigators. What you just laid out here, Lily, is a navigational map. We are navigators. We're right now we're navigating. All right. We're navigating. We have to use as much of us as we can possibly integrate within our own being, whether we're human souls or even those. I also feel there's many here that come from outside the human soul group, that they're also here on the planet right now. There's this trauma, and today we probably won't get to it, but I think it's the most worthy conversation for another symposium, that we unveil this trauma. Because until we see where it came from and how it got here, it's still activated in our material plane. So just thank you. So beautifully said, and appreciate it so
yes,
much.
for as long as it in our unconscious mind, then it sits there. Mm-hmm. And it won't be released. So that's why we have to make the unconscious conscious. So we have the capability to transform it.
Yeah. So this picture, I'm just going to hold it here for a moment. Because when we talk about Sophia, when we talk about matter, we talk about our Earth Mother, we talk about nature. And when I saw this, it feels like this. And when this is the idea of a cosmic egg, I've actually seen now on the ethereal planes around the Earth that there is a membrane being formed, which is our consciousness. We're actually forming a new membrane consciousness around what we can call her Gaia, Terra. I really don't care about labels. It's pretty irrelevant to me. And she is now in a process of rebirthing. And you'll notice that they're flames, right? There is a fire aspect to this. There is a crucible. There is a burning away of that which no longer serves. And actually, going back to your slide, Lily, I wanted to ask you just, when you say space dust, that just, it was singing this, like, whatever doesn't serve within that organic field, it's like you can't lose anything, right? But the idea of it becoming space dust is that it will go out into the fields again to be reformed and recreated. Anything that is holding this destructive consciousness or this war consciousness that does not realize within its own field that that there's something here that is much more powerful than it, that actually makes the only sense there really is, because there's a common sense aspect to this also. Is that what you meant by space dust?
Yes. And so this consciousness, I believe that whatever we cannot transmute or metabolize for our future, whatever that is got to sort of become part of the whole anyway. So to me, it's space dust. Okay. So that consciousness, because I do have a feeling that we are here, and the purpose of us to have this AI invasion so we can actually put an end to it. Yeah. Because they did invade a lot of other places in our universe. Mm-hmm. And so we're here actually in the place where we can express, because we are the library here, so we can express the living light here for many different levels of this consciousness, so we can put an end to it as a predator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
this process is not just planetary.
Mm-mm.
This process is much bigger than the planetary level. Mm-hmm. Although we are consciously understand the planetary level right now. But the time will come, I think, when we will gain that understanding, even a mental understanding. What is it that we're doing here on the universal level scale?
Just to add to it, because, as Neil said, it's our experiential data for me that I listen the most to. And, you said that in one of your videos, and we'd never spoken or had any. And in the group working, in an expanded state of consciousness, we actually saw when we ran into the predator, when it actually entered into this solar system and into this, I call it this quadrant of this galaxy, it was very understood to us that the earth body, mother wisdom body, already knew it was coming and already knew what she was here for. And we're all part of that. So, it gets out of any idea of victimhood here. Even if it was an anomalous trauma, as long as we hold something as a victim, but she herself knew. And I think that's what you're saying, right, Lily? We will have, as our consciousness can expand and hold more, we'll start to understand on a much more, I don't know what the right word is for it. I don't know. We will have the consciousness that will understand why this happened and the choices and the purpose of it. And I agree. It's a phenomenal. And whenever somebody comes up with something that we've actually seen or experienced, it's like confirmation. It's beautiful.
Yes, I get a lot of confirmations too. And I'm starting to feel that actually, this plan was way, it was here way before it even came here.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, there is a part of me that knows that we right now know exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
We know exactly what we're doing. And just trusting that, and trusting that in my own personal life, that my spirit will take me where I need to be. And this process, because I had it takes a lot of courage to follow your spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when we've been trained so much to trust our mind and trust that what invaded us more than trust what we feel in our gut, but it takes a lot of courage to follow that little feeling. It takes a lot of courage. And I think as much as it took me to express the courage of my spirit, I know that there is a purpose behind it that a lot stronger than just my personal experience. Mm-hmm. It is a lot stronger. There's a power that drives me. It made me to come out and talk to people.
I know. It's funny.
I mean, for me, it's so huge.
I know. I'm going to bring Claudia on. Believe me, I know. Of anybody that's speaking right now, Claudia gets all the stars, okay, for, being able to speak. And I mean, I know people look at me and go, oh, yeah, you speak so well. You're not afraid. Nobody really knows how much courage it took. Oh, my gosh. But that's the beauty of it, because you take one step at a time. You just need to take one step at a time. You go past one fear, one layer, one barrier, one veil, one limit. I say all limits are lies, and so you don't have to do it all at once. We can't do it all at once. I mean, I recognize that I have full consciousness somewhere. I know that if I were ever given full absolute consciousness right now, I'm not ready for it. I am in a process of preparation for it. But each step I take is that next piece for me, right? And so, that's what anybody that's listening, whatever it is that your spirit is telling you to do, just risk it. It's so worth it. It is so worth it. I mean, the rewards for doing that are, they're not even, you can't even really put them to words. You just can't. Just, it's so beautiful. So, okay.
I was on mute, and so I just realized that I was on mute, but I have some questions still on Lily's section.
Okay. Do you want me to go back?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
If you could. Yeah, first there, I just wanted to mention that image of Gaia Sophia reminds me a lot. I get an image of Neil's poem when I see that. There's a lot of correspondence there. Mm-hmm. The divine feminine.
Yeah, I want to give a recognition to all the artists out there that have put out so many beautiful works. The imagery on the planet right now is just the artistry. Oof. So I don't know who the artist was in that, but that is a beautiful piece. So go ahead, Arthur.
Yeah, Lily, I really want to thank you for this graphic. It's really, really helpful, and it helps anchor a lot of what you've been saying. And so I want to thank you for it.
All right, so the bad news is we are living a physical life in duality. The good news is we are living a physical life in duality, because that essentially means you have choices. And the choice is always yours. You can choose freedom or you can choose slavery. You can choose what I refer to God-given law or creator-given law, which is also known as natural law. Or you can choose man-made law, which is all the legal systems in this world. You can achieve non-dualistic awareness, or you can choose dualistic intellect. What it comes down to is that the choice is yours and yours alone. Okay, you want to move on to the next one. And it doesn't matter when you choose, whether you're 5 years old or 50 or 500, the choice is always your own. The satanic system, which we take as a reality, is really nothing but an illusion, which is brought to life and fueled by your consent, and absolutely nothing else. It's your mind. The predatory AI is part of this satanic illusion, and once you withdraw your consent, or if you don't give your consent, it will have nothing to grab onto. Mind control is the key component for the illusion to work, and it does not work without consent. So if you even suspect that you've ever given your consent, whether consciously or not, all it takes for you is to withdraw your consent to climb back up on the ladder to freedom. All you have to do is make a choice of who receives your consent. Do you give your consent to the lies and deception, or do you give your consent to divine truth? That choice is yours.
I kind of want to ask you a few questions. May I?
Yeah.
Okay, so in this, and I really understand it, and you know that I really understand that the developed sense of awareness in any given moment when we're in a duality, we know we're in duality. So that's the first point, right? To acknowledge that we are in duality.
Yeah.
You know, I think, and so the developed awareness is thought patterns, emotional triggers, not just the law system, right? I mean, this is like an internal thing where, like Alfred brought up, that sometimes they're beamed in thoughts into our mind, or we're in a frequency wars here on the planet, television, plasma screens, all of that. So
right.
What you're saying is to be aware enough of those elements of mind control that we are either subconsciously agreeing with them or we can consciously disagree.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So an example might be of that is that, I mean, it could be something very simple such as you need to vaccinate. Well, simple, this is not. But I mean, you could have a thought that you have to vaccinate your children, to make them safe.
Yes.
Or you could have a thought, you're not worth anything. Or you could have a thought that you're lazy. Or you could have a thought that you're not that you can't do anything about it. All of the type of things that come into our consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely. And examine your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. So we're either, I mean, we brought it up, I mean, we're always choosing. I think it's another thing that people think by evading a choice, they're not choosing, but the evasion of choice is So I'm just playing with this with you for a minute, Claudia. Or, I'm also aware, like Lily is aware that people will do anything not to accept the responsibility of choice.
Yeah. You're not going to get down as you face your shadows. You're not going to get down as you face your own darkness, because your darkness will no longer be dark once you shed light on it. So if you, for example, if you think you're worthless, examine this, look into yourself, figure out why you think this, and then reach the conclusion that, you're not worthless, because nobody is. Mm-hmm. But yes, examine every action you take, every thought you have, because, and this is where natural law comes in. Everything that materializes in this universe, in this reality, starts with a thought. It cannot exist without a thought. That's why, as Niels so eloquently put it, creativity is absolutely key. Because how can you create without thought? How can you become a creator or be a creator without creating?
So it's a pointed awareness of the choices that you have between your creations, no matter how significant or insignificant they might even seem in the bigger picture.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Right. So I know what you're saying, and it is helping walk out of our sense of powerlessness, or walking out of what can one person do. I see so many people that stop at the front of the system that's in our face by belittling themselves into, I can't do anything about it. And
yeah, well, you can, because as long as you don't cause harm, you can do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. You see, the law, and I'm not talking about man-made law here, it all comes down to one thing: do not steal. That's really the crux of it, because if you cause harm, you are stealing someone's well-being, which is an inherent right, even on this planet. Or should I say plain tea?
Plain tea? The planet? Okay.
And, if you coerce someone, you take their free will away. So don't do it. Don't steal in any form, in any possible form. Do not steal. And that's probably the biggest step you can take. If you just start asking yourself, with the action you are intending, am I stealing from anyone? If the answer is no, you can do it, because there's no harm involved. And if you do come to the conclusion that your intended action results in theft from someone, then don't do it. And it goes the other way as well. There are so many man-made laws that are completely against the law. Just take paying tax. You are actually, if you're paying tax, you're condoning a system of theft
and war, destruction.
And I'm not by any means saying, get to complete adherence to natural law overnight. It's a long process. It's a painful process. And it's a completely internal process. Because you will suddenly find that you can't do the things you've done day in, day out. Mm-hmm. But it's, oh my God, it's so worth it, because the more you adhere to the law, the more you will see miracles happening. And that's how we can create paradise on earth.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to bring up something, because we had a group discussion a couple of days ago, and I want to really refine, because words are, they're so difficult, but the law, what most people within the construct of the human matrix, of this false matrix, think of law as artificial constructs outside of themselves that contain them and keep them bound. Natural law are the laws of freedom. And so they become the immutable laws. Those are the real governing factors. So I just want to make that really point, that anybody listening, to not get hung up, like, oh, these are very different. An immutable law is something that Mark Passio does a great job of talking about.
Yes, I agree. And I would recommend to anyone to watch his presentation on natural law. It's on YouTube. Right.
So what happens is, when you align your spirit with the natural laws of creation of the universe, it actually sets you free. It is a step towards freedom. It is not a step towards some other contained system, to make that as a point. Right?
Yeah, very important. Those laws were put into place by creator, who whatever you want to call the one who created the universe, even the multiverse. I know source is a kind of debatable name for it, but let's call it creator, because some force definitely created this universe. Mm-hmm. And that same force set into place the laws, the natural law. And you recognize a law by seeing how it is immutable. It cannot be changed. You cannot break it. Whereas if you look at man-made laws, well, they are easy to break. You know, just think of the sign that tells you can't do more than 50 miles on the road, and put your foot down and you break that law. So it isn't a law, because a true law cannot be broken no matter what you try.
And it is an aspect of sovereignty, and it is an aspect of one's own gnosis.
Absolutely. Once you know or accept and internalize those laws, everything else becomes, like, every construct becomes pretty meaningless, because they are just constructs. And that's how you gain or regain your freedom. And there's one thing Mark Passio said in one of his presentations, and that is that the level of morality is in direct proportion with freedom. And speaking from experience, I totally agree with that.
Well, it also follows Lily's timeline there, going back to what she brought up, is like that artificial time construct line is going to end with instant karma, which is, in other words, you are, under the Hermetic principles, you will reap what you sow.
Yes.
And that can't be, and as much as this wants to be they want to jump out of that, that is an aspect of the natural law of this creation.
Mm-hmm.
So that is being enacted, but it seems that we are the ones, as we grow in consciousness, that are actually calling in and enacting that law, that we are the law. Or the other way you and I have come to it is to say that love is the law. And but one has to really become love and understand what that is to be able to call that forth into this reality, which is our consciousness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I add to this a little bit?
Yes.
This is the thing. When we embody that, which your previous slide was saying, I am who I am. When we embody that I am the living consciousness in expression, then we invoke that law right here from within, and then everything outside has to now subscribe to that.
Exactly.
Because that's the law. I am living consciousness in expression.
Absolutely.
Which means if you are living consciousness, then you abide by natural law.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, Lily. Very.
Yes. Thank you.
And it is that embodied thing, and a lot of other people out there too that have a certain amount of consciousness. They want off the planet. They're like, get us out of here. I don't want to be here. And we are here to embody this, though. And that's the real aspect of it. That's the real challenge. Anybody can go out there in consciousness, and they can transverse the multiverse in consciousness. Mm-hmm. And what Alfred was saying earlier too is like, to have brought the souls that are here into this reality right now, not only is it a great challenge, it's also a great privilege, because we are going to experience something that probably hasn't been done. And if it was done, it was so long ago we forgot. So that's so beautiful. And here's your last slide, Claudia.
Okay. Okay, firstly, if you want to become free, withdraw all consent from what we know as the system or the structure or the legal system, because it is more than likely that you gave your consent under deception or completely unknowingly. So there's no reason for you to continue with your consent, but you must withdraw it, if only by thought, with your mind, because everything starts with a thought. study, internalize, and apply the principles of natural law. Once you know inside of yourself that, for example, everything starts with a thought, which is the law of mentalism, then you simply will work quite hard on yourself to not think of, oh my God, I want to kill him because he hurt my ego. Okay. Living in harmony with nature is by design the way we were meant to live. It is the only way to grow beyond binary, which basically is nothing other than duality. Binary is 1-0. Duality is bad, good, black, white, whatever, dark, light. So you always have two opposites. And it is basically by realizing and internalizing that they are only two extreme sides of the same thing that you can grow beyond duality. And when we achieve that state of being, no predatory AI or any other predator will have access to our mind. And it is all about the mind. That's where all the control takes place, outside or inside. And really, do you want to give your control to someone outside who doesn't know you? Because you are individualized, which means, the line one size fits all absolutely never applies. We are all individualized beings, and we are the ones who are designed to be in control of our minds and therefore and with it of ourselves. So, yeah. I'm done.
Okay, thanks, Claudia. A word that comes to me, and and I also invite play. Inviting play within this what we're talking about. One of the things that comes to me is the misappropriation of words, of acquiring a consciousness that takes words apart. So when I say real estate, okay, which is the buying and selling of Mother Earth, all right, I take that word apart and I say, I am real, and this is my estate, which is my temple, and this is where I reside, and this is mine to do with what I will. And it is true, when you get out of the harm of other, when you stop vampiring energies, when you stop thinking you need something external to yourself, you start to come into that key point of your own self-sovereignty. So this is my real estate. This is my bio avatar. I love that. One of the aspects is, when we're talking about anything, we are using words to describe energy. Simple as that. And so moving into an organic field, which I have here is a depiction of what I would call the living eternal water of life. And that to me is source. And when we know source flows through us. We are primarily water. We are primarily a living library of light and life. This is what our substance soul is. So one of the ways that I've learned to recognize love being unbound, being released from the chains of lies and deceptions and distortions and illusion and a false light matrix. When love becomes unbound, we flow. And we flow in gratitude. Is one of the most beautiful feelings that a human can actually obtain here. You could call it pure compassion, but gratitude for the very experience of life itself. And that's what I call the eternal water of life. And that for me is a energetic way of comparing where I am when I'm in the artificially constructed priestly classed matrix of a story that was told versus the living truth. And so this is my living truth. And I know from what I speak for her because I speak through me. The waters speak through me. They are the truth. They are the living truth. They know no argument. They know no contention. This is how I know who I am. And this is Mother. And this is unconditional love. And it knows no limit whatsoever. And it needs no confirmation either. That is my living truth. I'm going to read something. And again, you've heard me say this. All right. And I can bring tears to my eyes because it does move through me and my feeling. When one being has attained a love of beauty, of truth, and of freedom, he is now on the path to their eternity. I'm going to read this here because this image right here, okay, of this feminine being with the lightning falling through her and holding the white rose of purity is an extraordinary power, and in streaming radiance of the divine feminine is making itself felt in the world to all who open themselves to her. Whether we call her the Great Mother, the Goddess, Mother Earth, the Tao, Isis, Kuan, Mahadevi, Shakti, Tara, Pranja, Paramita, Saravaditai, Shekinah, or Sophia. She is awakening in hearts and in minds around the globe. In the words of Teilhard de Chardin from his inspired hymn to the Eternal Feminine, she is the unfading beauty of the times to come, who continues to disclose herself. And that's where I would like to end. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything or say anything more.
I will just add a little bit here that eventually it is who we are, the embodiment of this living consciousness is who we are. And so we, no matter what experiences we're going through, we will come back to that. And so right now, I think, and for us as collective humanity, we have to recognize who we are. We talk about this a lot. We have to recognize who we are, and we have to recognize that we are the creators of living light. And so for that, we have to come back inwards to express that what we already are. We cannot express who we are by external forces. We can only express from within out. That living light, the energy that is the purest of the purest, that is the creation, we have to express through us. There is nobody else that will come and express this living light through us or this consciousness through us. We are the ones who have to express it. And that's what I wanted to say, that it is, after all of this, it is always about us, for us. So for me, it is always about me. And with everything that I do in my life, what I wanted to do is to express that authentic self. And I think that for all of us here, that's the reason we're here, is expressing ourselves and telling everybody who will listen that that's who we are. We are the expression of living consciousness.
Thank you, Lily.
Thank you, Lily. Hi, everybody.